All right. Well, I'll look at the camera then. Hi, I'm Johnny Tischler. I'm running for mayor of St. Catharines this year in 2018. I'm also a local business owner, small business owner for the last 17 years. And I'm just here tonight to answer some questions and let some people know a little bit more about me.
So the business, 17 years, and that's tattoo work, right?
Yeah, I own Sonic Tattoo here in St. Catharines. It's the second longest surviving tattoo studio in the Niagara region. 17 years is a pretty long stretch for a tattoo studio. They're a little bit transient sometimes, you know. They pop up fast and go out of business fast. So anyone who's been around, I'd say 10 or more years, is doing something right, or at least knows.
It seems like a lot of the downtown core of St. Catharines is very much just things come around for half a year and they're gone, kind of thing. It's very transient.
Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that our downtown core has been being trying to revitalize for several years, with some success, but not nearly as much as I think even the city would like. So buildings are old, rent is cheap. That's why I think you find a lot of reasons why people flock down there. Even myself, I had 2 tattoo studios at one time, and the second one was located on St. Paul Street. Why? Because the rent was affordable. I got a lot of space for a little amount of money, and I think that's attractive to a new business startup. It's actually financially feasible, but then sometimes other issues arise, you know, like the issues that we're dealing with now with the amount of homelessness and addicted homelessness, the people downtown. So now that's actually starting to, you know, make people steer away from downtown. So it's going to make it much harder for a business downtown to survive.
For how long have you seen that being like a primary concern of the downtown?
Well, 4 years ago, when we elected our current mayor, it was a bit of an issue. Like, let's just say that maybe St. Catharines will, and these are just made up numbers, approximate. Like, say we had 20 homeless people. That has more than quadrupled. Like, I mean, there's hundreds of people living on the streets of St. Catharines now. And, you know, I'm not saying that that's our current mayor's fault in anything. You know, I'm sure there's lots of reasons that have led to it. I think at one time Hamilton closed down a lot of their methadone clinics, which meant that a lot of addicted people from Hamilton had no more, source for their methadone. So some of them flocked to St. Catharines, where some of our clinics were still open. So it enabled them to get what they needed, but they're not going to obviously travel back and forth. So they took up residence, and, you know, that's one example of how it's risen. But there's many more. And I think most people are aware of it.
I have dealt with a few here and there. And they are kind of prevalent. There have been plenty of times where I've done my banking at night and there's people sleeping in the banks.
Yeah, that was definitely becoming a bit of an issue with the CIBC Bank, especially for a little while, which made them change the policy on when the doors would be open and things like that. So you can definitely feel that businesses are taking notice of it as well, and things are changing. And even in the short 6-year span that I've been living in the area, I've definitely seen that kind of difference. But I don't know. Is there anything that you think, if you were to be elected mayor, you could do about that situation? Like, what would be the plan of attack, really?
Well, it's a big issue right now. So, I mean, that's a very detailed question. I can just tell you a few things which I think could improve the situation, like right off the top of my head. First of all, we need a facility to have like maybe a drop-in center. So if a person wanted to just not sleep on the street, especially in extreme weathers, whether that be rain, cold, snow, that they could come off of the street. And even if it's just to sleep on a cot, like in an open concept room, like a hall or a gymnasium, and at the same time possibly get some food. I just don't think that there's really anything that accommodates the numbers that we have right now. And there was a lot of talk when the St. Catharines General closed and the Hotel Du closed to build the bigger hospital, you know, that was going to be turned into affordable housing, because affordable housing is a major issue in St. Catharines right now. So nothing was ever really done. It still sits there in a rotting, decrepit state, and that is where all the homeless people have begun to congregate. Even though it's not something you might see from the daytime, at night, lots of them are living there, to stay out of the elements and to be sheltered. So if that space is available and the homeless have already taken it upon themselves to use it, maybe we could take a portion of it. Obviously, the St. Catharines General is a huge building, okay? So there's no way that anyone could expect the city to do a complete redo of it and start all. But there are sections, okay? The original front face is the original hospital, and we had built on so much more modern portions of the building. Those ones are still relatively new. I think just take a section of that, open it up, put some tax dollars into that, which I think it would be very worthwhile, and maybe work with some of the other city associations that work with the homeless or the shelters or missions, and come together and try to have a plan of attack to assist the homeless, because it is not their fault, okay? And that's one thing that you always hear about, citizens getting angry, and it's something that's completely different and we're not accustomed to. I totally get that. But, we shouldn't be taking out our anger at them, Sorry about that.
It's okay.
That's
Yeah.
I kind of like that answer because it's fairly specific, and nobody really can answer the general question of what do we do about homelessness, because it's a very complex issue, but that at least gets some of the specifics out of something that might mitigate the effects of homelessness.
Yeah, when it comes to the general homeless population, I've always, like, when I walk past somebody who's asking for change or something like that, I always think about how far some people have fallen to the point where you end up homeless. I think it's unimaginable in the sense that I have had some rough financial months, but I've never been close to not having a roof over my head. And to get to that point, I think no, I'm just rambling, but having the structures in place for the homeless is important as well. But I think having some sort of rehabilitation. I know Hamilton did experiment with a universal minimum wage or universal income, which was cut. But I think they do also need to have the support for, I don't know how many of the homeless population or how much of the homeless population could work, but I do think that there needs to be also support to strive to be one day not homeless or one day not feeding off of the assistant program. I know that that's a very basic thing to say, and that took 45 seconds to get out. But
and I'm sure that there are many people that would want the opportunity to not rely on those things. And there always will be a small well, I don't know necessarily small relative to the amount of homeless people there are, but there is certainly mental illness playing a factor, and some people that just really can't cope with the way that society is in general and just don't really fit in with the way that we do things. So I don't know if you'd ever eliminate all of them, but at least the people that do want to change their situation, it'd be nice for them to have the opportunity to do so, I would say.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Totally. I was listening. I'm sorry.
Well, and I guess a part of that too is having employment opportunities for people seeking them. What is your general... Do you think that we need more jobs in the region, or do you think that we're doing okay relative to other cities?
No, I definitely think that unemployment is an issue in not only St. Catharines, but the Niagara region. There's always been this talk about the GO train coming to St. Catharines or coming back to St. Catharines. Like, we used to have a Via Rail station, and then that disappeared. And that this will bring the jobs back because people will be commuting from other parts of the GTA or Toronto, and maybe we could get some sort of industry back here, and then we could not only use our citizens to work in that industry, but then we could do more business and have more people come from outside of it. But in all honesty, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think St. Catharines, it's a bit of a pipe dream to ever think that we're ever going to get back any large industry like we once did with GM. Okay, it's just not happening. Everyone knows manufacturing is not being, it's all gone south. Okay, very few manufacturing facilities exist anymore. I really believe that the city of St. Catharines, if they want to employ the city of St. Catharines and get the unemployment rate down and employ more people, it's to start supporting small to medium-sized business. Like, here's something that a lot of people don't realize is that St. Catharines alone has 3,700 small to medium-sized businesses. Okay, that is a lot. That's just one city. We're not talking about the entire region, okay? So with every small to medium-sized business, if you were to employ an average of, say, 3 to 7 employees, 3 to 5 employees, that's going to give you approximately 20,000 plus jobs. Okay, that's quite a bit of positions, for one city. But if you ever take a look at our employment statistics and everything, like on a site like Wikipedia or something, you're going to see it listing all the top employers, and those top employers are going to be the hospital, the school board, Brock University.
Cytel might be on there.
Cytel is number 5, actually.
Yeah,
so the thing is and Algoma. Okay, so there's our top 5. You total all those numbers that are listed on that site, they don't even come to 12,000. So basically, by stimulating and supporting small to medium-sized business more, we could bring that up. Right now, instead of saying that Brock University or the hospital is the number 1, the heading should say small to medium business, not any one person's business, 20 plus thousand, and all the others should come underneath that. And that's where I feel that being a small business owner and trying to have expanded over the years and had great difficulty with City Hall and doing so because I don't feel the support is there by our city. But our city keeps hanging on to the belief that we're going to get these big, massive amounts of job from someone coming to our city and doing that again. Honestly, I don't believe it's going to happen.
Well, even short term, I remember would have been 2013. Nikita, the TV show, came to shoot behind where the Meridian Center is now.
Yeah.
And all the press behind the fact that they were shooting in what was essentially a construction site that looks slummy. People were like, oh, it's so good. And the only reason why they picked it is because it reminded them of the slums of India. So that's not necessarily a glowing recommendation for our film environment. So that, as expected, didn't go anywhere. But they do seem to hold on to that idea, and they do. St. Catharines, like you said, I've always noticed that they do have a lot of small, kind of very interesting businesses. There's a lot of independent businesses, even on the main drag, and some of them do disappear quite a bit, unfortunately. There's a few restaurants that are gone within a year or less time, really quickly. But
the restaurants and bars seem to change up the quickest, I would say. But there's a lot of, I would say, artists in the region that are trying to make business. And I guess tattoo is a type of art.
It absolutely
I don't really know that much about what tattoo artists go through, but I mean, we as photographers and videographers definitely see the small business side of that.
Small business owner is small business owner.
That's right.
What expansion problems did you have? Like, what was you said you had a second location on St. Paul, so...
Yeah, I decided to close that prior to the problems that I was mentioning. So I like most people, when you start a business, you lease a space, and you typically start out with a 5-year term. It gives you a better rate over 5 years. So I stayed in the same site for 15 years, and that was 20 Hartzell Road. And I saw a building come up for sale at 108 Hartzell Road. It was an old RBC bank right next to the 7-Eleven. great location. Had its own parking lot, right at an intersection of St. Catharines, Volkswagen, Audi's, 24-hour store next to you. What an awesome location for prime visibility, and add a set of lights. So whenever someone stopped, they would see you. It would be unavoidable that you would be seen. And plus, with 15 years already being in the region, everyone would know we were there. And I bought that building, and I paid a good dollar for it, and I started the process of getting it ready and going down to City Hall and doing everything that I needed to do. And I'd go to the planning and zoning the department, or the building department of St. Catharines, and then all of a sudden you need this. Okay, all right, that's fine, I understand that. Okay, you need this. Well, with everything I needed came with a fee, came with an expense.
Yep.
I mean, I had a $90,000 budget to move my business there, which was more than enough, and that was some building as well. And that budget just slowly keep getting exhausted because I kept being asked to repeat things that had already been done and proved on the building, so they weren't really required. I mean, I needed new phase 1 environmental, a new phase 2 environmental, and these are expensive things. They're anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 per environmental. So there's 10 grand right there almost just on doing something that was already, and I had them proven that the site was clean. I just think that the city really saw the opportunity to make a lot of city money, which the city does need to make money. I mean, that's how we pay our city employees, and and we do need to make money. But I just really felt I was centered out, and here's something that I truly don't admit to too many people, considering that I'm a candidate in the mayoral race this year, is I actually voted for Walter Sesnick. I watched those debates in 2014. And I chose him because he really sold it to me as a candidate that he cared about small business. And he said he was a small business owner himself, in which he sold his business. And he was the CEO of the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. There's someone who deals with small business. So he sold it to me. And so the minute I started to encounter these problems, he also mentioned that he would have like an open door policy. So I contacted City Hall, where his number and his email was listed on their page. Tried contacting him several times with no response. Then I started to get a little disappointed. So I couldn't move on. My budget was being exhausted. I was getting no answer. I had to rent the building out. So it was obvious the building was not going to be used for my purposes anymore. But now I'm carrying a massive debt on a building that I purchased so that I could expand with no help from City Hall or from our current mayor. It just became a rental up until literally 2 months ago. I sold it. It was 5 years of nothing but headaches and nothing but disappointment. And I managed to find a new location on Ontario Street from Jack Johnson Holdings, who is Jay Johnson runs it now. And Jay is born and raised here in St. Catharines guy. So I'm telling you, what a great feeling to finally rent a unit off of someone who's here in the city dealing with what we deal with. Typically most plazas are owned by out of city corporations or something, possibly Toronto, anywhere. So it was really great. And plus, Jay has history here. He used to run and manage the lakeside way back in the day, back in Port Dalhousie when Port Dalhousie was really booming. And, when I make that statement, it's really, I have such vivid memories of how great Port Dalhousie was and everything. And mentioning that the lakeside, where it was and it existed, it's a hole in the ground right now. If anybody's gone
A
down
little
there.
ugly, yeah. Especially after the water came really high last year.
That's right. So, I mean, it's a little disappointing to see it because, and I'm sure a lot of people in Port Dalhousie would agree. So I hope I answered your question. I got a little off topic there,
We know a small business owner.
I was just thinking about that. He's going through the same stuff. He has an open business, but only half of his concept has been fully approved for the city. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he's been very public about it, but he has a board game cafe that was supposed to be also an escape room. The board game cafe was, accepted, no problem, and there was no issues there. But the escape room, it's been 2 years, and they're still giving him crap for everything.
It still looks like it needs heavy renovation.
Yeah, like he's nowhere near. So the main moneymaker was supposed to be the escape room, so now he's only halfway done his plan, and he's not even relying on the main moneymaker, which, I mean, he's making money off of his non-main moneymaker, so I guess there's something to be said there. But
I'm curious if it's what it really is stopping. If it is just targeting like small businesses, or if it's a bigger issue of how we do zoning and stuff like that in the region. Because I build houses for a job. I'm a framer.
Yeah.
And I know that even some of the big builders have been doing this for decades and have, so many subdivisions up, still get thrown like something they weren't expecting last minute, and all of a sudden now they can't pour a bunch of foundations, they can't build the houses the way that they wanted to. Do you think it's a...
I definitely don't exclusively think that the problems that exist at City Hall and St. Catharines when it comes to planning and zoning and developing and everything are exclusive to only small business. I definitely would say that and agree with that. It probably happens at all levels. It's just that sometimes it's a little discouraging, or it's when all of a sudden you're a smaller person, and you're limited by your funds and your ability to do things, and you try to do these things, and it means total, like, my dream was not realized because of my situation. But that's not going to stop me. I moved on, and but the thing is if affordable housing and housing is an issue in St. Catharines, it'd be hard. It's really hard to understand why City Hall then may, in like the situation that you mentioned, why they would give a difficult time to builders who are potentially wanting to erect more housing. Or whether that, like, even if it's affordable or not, more housing is a good thing. I mean, we are running out. This is a fact too, and a lot of people that in this area know this. We are running out of space in St. Catharines. Like, we don't have much buildable space anymore. Pretty soon St. Catharines will literally only be able to go up. So that is an issue too. But with old sites that are sitting empty right now, like we mentioned earlier, the Hotel Dieu, and 4 years ago it was planned that was going to be a massive housing project. Well, 4 years later, it just sits there, still a pile of dirt. Even if they opted to tear down the St. Catharines General, that space alone. Okay, let's decide. Let's not convert it. Let's not re-renovate it. Either way, it's space that is sitting there unused,
huge value,
and that's right, and it's costing all of us.
Taking a little bit of a different turn, what is the main thing that you think you have that the other candidates don't? What's your selling factor?
Well, I think in the past, every time someone ever tries to run a campaign and they're just saying, like, I'm an average citizen or something, I found that people, they don't warm up to that for some reason. And I'm literally trying to tell people that I have been dealing with exactly what you're dealing with. So if you're having the problems that I'm having, I just wish you would see that I'm sympathetic to that, and that if elected, that obviously I wouldn't allow things like that to happen. I'd like to consider, it might be a very broad spectrum, but let's just say everyone knows what the 1% is. The 1% of any city or any society is typically known as the rich, the people that have money and means. And the 99% of us, and I don't even think we live in a society anymore that has classes. I mean, when I was growing up, it was like lower class, upper lower class, middle class, upper middle class. It was all these different classes. I don't think there is classes anymore. I think really it's probably rich and poor, if it's anything, or rich and the average person. So I feel that I would best represent them because I've always been them, and I would honor an open door policy. I just can't see how anyone. Now, I understand that the position of mayor is a busy position, and I definitely don't think that the mayor can absolutely specifically handle absolutely every single thing that comes his way. but there's no reason why any citizen should ever be outright ignored or get zero response, because the mayor is a busy person himself, and the position is not an easy one, and I will say that. So I don't think that it's something that should be taken lightly. But the mayor has multiple assistants to help him do his job. Not only does he have a secretary directly for his scheduling, but then he has other assistants that are to help him in this. And if he couldn't take those calls and those messages and he can't deal, then somebody should. Nobody should fall through the cracks. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Whether it be a small businessman, average citizen, housewife, single mom.
Do you think social media could play a role in that? Because it gives sort of a different voice. I mean, if the mayor was active on a Facebook page or tweeting things out and sort of addressing people in a more personal manner, do you think that would be something you would take an interest in?
Well, our mayor is incredibly active in social media, probably more so than any prior mayor. Probably the first of all the mayors leading up to him. So much, though, that I think a lot of people have lost sight of, with social media and with YouTube and with Facebook and with tweeting, when there's an event and someone needs to go out to that event, we see our mayor. We see him talking with people. We see him out at charitable events and stuff, and he's smiling and he's doing his job. That really shows people, that it makes us think that, wow, we've really got a good mayor. He's a mayor of the people. He's a really, really good guy. And I'm not saying Walter Sesnick is not a good guy, but that's what builds name recognition and makes a person be liked. But I think being a mayor is a little bit more than just being I like him. He's a good guy. Hey, Walter's my friend. You know how many times I've heard people say that? I definitely want to be a friendly mayor, but I don't think that a mayor should be going around trying to collect friends. I think really, every citizen should be his responsibility, and he should look at every single person in his city as equals. And not just kind of, I won't say play favorites, but you can definitely see that through social media, he's built a bit of a following. I don't view being the mayor of St. Catharines or that position as being a celebrity. No, it's a position, it's a job, and if you're elected, you're paid to do that job, okay? And that job should be taken serious, but I mean, don't. It's not about the money. It's not about the prestige, the power, or anything else that comes with it. Mm-hmm. It's about the citizens and the city.
I think it's human nature almost to want to pick people that they can sort of view as friends. It just is a strange thing that a lot of the people that end up as the head of a political party, or just anybody that's in prominent power, seem to be, at least to the majority that voted for them, a likable character, like a household name. It's almost inevitable, it seems. I don't know. And I don't necessarily see it as an entirely bad thing in every case, but...
No, and I hope I didn't maybe explain that wrong. I'm definitely not trying to knock him in that sense. I just think that sometimes... a position like this, it can go in different directions sometimes, and just don't lose sight of what the ultimate role of the job is. Mm-hmm. And as I said, it's to ensure that the city grows and survives and gets strengthened, and that the citizens. After all, our tax dollars all go to City Hall that cover all the wages of all city employees, including the mayors. So basically, they work for us. So they should be doing the things that we need them to do, not doing the things maybe more that they want to do or they like to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that says.
I think that resonates. Yeah. Resonate with people.
It seems as though the mayor is utilizing Facebook like the way that people say social media is negative, in the sense that when he posts, like you said, he's at community events and whatnot, as most people would, but social media profiles are always kind of buffed up to be a better life than it actually is. The job of the mayor, if you look on Facebook, all it is social engagements. You don't see the paperwork and the actual other hard work that goes along with it. So it is a heavily curated image, but it is an image that is a little bit unbalanced, I would say. That being said, it is probably a little bit more visually stimulating to have a mayor smiling at the Greek festival versus having a mayor sitting in his office doing paperwork. So I can see why certain times a picture at a festival is more inviting.
You said, and then I can't come up with the exact quote, but I believe you said something along the lines of you desire to be mayor because being like on some kind of board or being like in a council of some kind isn't the right way to affect change. Could you maybe go into detail about that?
Do you mean like the mayor's role with the rest of city council? Like,
what can the mayor do that somebody on one of these boards couldn't?
Well, this is the thing that I think a lot of citizens are unaware of. I mean, when you hear the term mayor, I think a lot of people do ultimately think that the mayor has like quite a bit of individual power, in which he really doesn't. In some senses, a mayor is just a figurehead. But the key to being an effective mayor is working with council. Now we have 6 wards, 12 councillors. Those 13 people, the councillors and the mayor, need to come together, need to do what's best. Okay, and the reason why we have 2 councillors per ward is so that that the wards are fairly large. So I mean, we need more than one. If you're going to call your ward councillor, but you can't get through to one, because maybe that ward councillor has 4,500, maybe up to 6,500 people under his or her ward. That's a lot of phone calls to get back to if your phone is ringing a lot. And ward councillors need to take those calls, try to deal with the situation, report back to the mayor, report back to council, but everyone needs to work together. And I think sometimes what ends up happening is a mayor takes office. Okay, and sometimes alliances are made with certain ward councillors. Maybe certain people get along better than others, and that's just human nature. But the thing is a mayor cannot pass anything on his own. He needs 7 out of 13 votes. If he puts forward something, he needs 6 of the 12 councillors to side with him, so his vote will go through. And the thing is we need diversity in the ward and the council level. We need new ward councillors this year. I don't think we should really be re-electing too many of the other ones. I'm not saying all. I've met some great ones, and I really think that some of them should stay in. But I think it's time that maybe you retire and you let some new blood in. Because if the council exists the way it does right now, and I have no idea how that is, I don't know who the mayor is friends with and who he's not with, but if the mayor did have, enough of the council to swing every time he proposed something, all his votes would be passed. So the thing is every 4 years, if you bring in new blood, you basically replenish the pool, and now you're developing a new rapport with possibly the same mayor or new council people. It should always be replenished. When things stay the same, then change doesn't happen often.
Is there a term limit for ward?
There isn't.
No, so
and
that's the
thing.
issue.
Some of the ward councillors have actually been held their position for as much as 12 years. Some of them 8 years. So the thing is it can definitely that person, if the person's doing a good job, then that's fine, but I don't know. This year is almost unprecedented to previous elections. You should see the number of people running. Maybe some wards are a little weaker than others, but some wards have as much as 7 or 8 people running for 2 positions. The mayor's position is 4 this year, and the previous one was 5. At the regional level, like we need to re-elect 6 regional councillors, and there's 23 people running. So what this tells me is that not only at the St. Catharines level, but at the regional level, People want change. People are stepping up. I mean, I'm a small business owner, but I know in other cities like Welland, there's a small business owner running there. There's a tattoo artist running there, like to be a ward counselor. And finally, people have said, you know what? I'm not going to sit around and just go along with what's happening. I'm going to throw my hat into the ring and I'm going to see if I can affect some change. And I support absolutely every single person running this year because, congratulations. You've finally stood up and said, you know what? This isn't working. We need some change.
If you were to win as a small business owner, speaking about how busy the job would be, how would that... Do you have direct plans for how it's going to affect your tattoo parlor? Do you have the management in place so you can...
Yeah, I've actually already done that in advance because, I mean, let's face facts. I'm a realist in everything. Unseating an incumbent is one of the hardest things to do in all of politics, okay? So there's a good chance that Walter Sesnick would be reelected, but that doesn't mean I'm not giving it my all within my means. I have put those plans into place, okay? And so to make sure that I have someone to manage. Now, I would always manage from afar. You can do that even if holding down a full-time job. I can check in at the end of every day. So if the mayor works Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, plus I'm sure there's always going to be some potential weekend events that he has to make appearances at. Just going by what our current mayor is always being seen at and doing, and that's fine too. But I think there'll still be some time left over to oversee the management of it and everything. It would be a big step for me to walk away from. I've been in the direct manager, owner, operator, whatever, president, CEO, because my studio's incorporated. Most studios are just sole proprietorships. I incorporated years ago because of my desire to expand. And right now, even so, Sonic has probably one of the most diversified services. Typically, a tattoo studio, tattoos and pierces. We do that, but we've been doing tattoo removal, laser tattoo removal for 10 years. We have a barber component, like a barbershop component to our studio. We did microblading for a while. We even used to do laser therapy, like not cosmetic, but therapeutic laser, light laser. We employed a registered massage therapist for a while, always looking at expanding, okay? The one thing that I don't think people understand is tattoo studio is part of the body modification industry. And if people look at that as the industry, not just, a tattoo studio or this, everything I mentioned is all part of the body modification industry. You go get your nails done, that's body modification. You get your hair cut, that's body modification. You go get, a chiropractor who's a doctor, but you're still modifying your body, any form of that. So that's what we are. And I don't look at us as nothing, it might be called Sonic Tattoo because that was the name originally given us. But I really think we're not a tattoo studio. We're a body modification studio that tattoos, pierces, barbers, laser removal, that does all these services. And it unifies our industries. I like that. I really like meeting other people from other professions or trades that all fall under body modification.
It's neat. And you, as a business owner for so long, I think in media at the very least, tattoo parlors are portrayed in a negative light, but you seem to be going at it in every logical business sense, including the idea of bringing in new ways to attract customers. So that's, you're going against media types, so that's good. Yeah. Do you find that is it a mixed bag of everything, or is your still main bread and butter tattoos? I knew you as a tattoo place.
No, actually, probably Sonic has actually out-earned tattooing and piercing for probably the last 4 years with laser tattoo removal. I guess it's, I don't want to say it's a sad thing to say, but
probably a bit bittersweet.
We actually fade and remove more tattoos than we apply, but that doesn't mean we're still tattooing like crazy. But this is the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is when I mentioned that Sonic is the second longest surviving studio, been open 17 years. Okay, you need to pick those higher years of experience or years of operation to research those studios. Now, there's several other studios and a huge underground home-based side of our industry that has zero health board inspection and is still pumping out tons of tattoos. Yeah. And these are where lots of this fading and the removal are coming from. So people are bypassing, regional inspections from, the Niagara Regional Board of Health. And they're just because they want to make fast, quick money. It's being done out of homes. So there's a big risk for people that are just trying to save a little bit of money. Well, when you go get a quote from a tattoo studio that's been around a long time and you're like, wow, that's expensive, it's really not, because if you're only being quoted $20 more by someone who's doing it out of a house, knowing that place, that's being inspected is, you can take a look at their inspection reports online. You can know full disclosure of their inspection reports, whether or not they've had infractions, whether or not they've breached any protocols. It's worth the extra $20 for the peace of mind, for the safety, for the experience of the artist. You're not going to get a bad tattoo, because you chose a place that has been around a long time and has a reputation.
That's to be said for every industry. The photography industry is like that too.
Yeah. Except with us, it's a little bit more like, oh, that it costs that much? I'll just get my friend with their cell phone to do it for my wedding. Yeah.
You can't...
yeah, you're absolutely
It's
right.
hard to substitute.
When you do tattoo removal, I'm assuming based on the way that you just explained it, a good chunk of the people removing tattoos are ones that have had sort of botch jobs, or... So there's no... In that sense, I would assume there'd be no kind of hard feelings, because you as a tattoo artist would obviously be emotionally connected to some tattoos. Have you ever had to remove your own work from somebody?
We had, there'll always be that case. And I don't have any problem with saying that at all. But it's not because the person came back and said, I want this off because I'm unhappy with it. Too many people rush the decision-making process of a tattoo. Just because something looks cool and is trendy, I mean, do you really want to wear that? Or do you think you're going to enjoy that or like that for the rest of your life? Is it that personal to you? That's really why people decide they want things. Like, let's face facts here. Like, a lot of people in our industry, so the tattoo artists, piercers, or anyone who might be watching this, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But in the 90s, we must have pumped out more Chinese symbols or kanji onto people than ever. Like, tons of symbolism from a different language and a different culture that really we didn't know that much about. But, there's the symbol. That's what it means. It gets put on. Tons of symbols were put on that didn't even mean what they meant. And then people found out later, So the thing is trends come and go. And sometimes those trends, they become so trendy and so many people utilize, getting those things that when they're gone, now all of a sudden they're not trendy anymore, but you're still wearing it. Can you live with it? Then live with it. If not, then you're going to want to cover it. And sometimes covering is not so easy when it's big, it's dark, it's bold. So laser fading is just enough to lighten the existing tattoo so that the new tattoo can go over it and be covered successfully. So that's big. I'd say more people are fading. They're not anti-tattoo anymore. They just happen to get one that they weren't happy with.
Yeah, I've sat and I've thought, and I still can't come up with something that I'd want on for the rest of my life.
Well, that's, what? I was 19 when I got my first tattoo, and we have people calling the studio wanting to get tattooed at the age of 13. Yeah. That is ridiculous.
What are the rules there?
See, that's the thing. There is no legal legislation for age on when it comes to tattooing or piercing. So basically, with parental consent, you could pretty much do anything, and even without parental consent, because there's a certain aspect of the law that would prevent or would allow someone to basically consent for themselves. So if a person comes in and they're underage and you explain the process to them, and you get from them that they totally comprehended, they're at an age limit, that they totally understood and comprehend what you explained to them, then by law they can sign the paperwork for themselves and consent to it. But if someone, obviously, if you see that you're losing them in your explanation and it's like this person does not understand what you're saying, well, then you definitely should not do it, because they're not comprehending the process, the outcome.
That's interesting. I knew that some tattoo places had just across the board, nobody under 16 kind of rules, or I've seen certain things like that, except with parental consent to it in some cases. 'Cause I had some friends that tried to get tattoos young, but they were unsuccessful most of the time.
Well, with going back, saying that there is no age legislation. Okay, so the industry, so the tattoo industry, basically set it upon themselves: 16 for a tattoo, 16 for a piercing, 18 for a tattoo. So those were the minimum age limits that were set out by the industry, so as not to incur any parental problems or a certain maturity level to acquire what service you wanted. Now, most studios would go 2 years under each age limit with parental consent. So if you wanted a piercing, 14 to 16 would be fine with parental consent. After 16, sign for yourself. And the same thing for tattooing, 16. But with the massive influx of tattoo studios, when Sonic opened, we were one of 5 tattoo studios in the entire Niagara region. And if you count up all the open ones now that are health board inspected, and probably the remaining ones that are not, that are known about, we're probably looking at 40 tattoo studios. And a studio can be as small as just a person doing it out of their house, so a single person. So there's lots of people giving out tattoos there, right? So that's why age limits are coming down. There, a lot of people are vying for this business. They all want the business. So certain studios, and I don't know which ones, but are willing to go substantially lower. They're not breaking any law, but it's affecting the industry, and it's making us look bad. It's making us look as if maybe we're potentially just trying to make money off of something that we know the youth maybe look up to, think is cool or something. So recently Sonic has actually just changed its age limit. So it's 18 right across the board, no parental consent. We only started that a while back because the phone keeps ringing and 13-year-olds want tattoos, 11-year-olds want piercings. I'm 48 years old. I don't want to be in a booth piercing a 16-year-old girl anymore, alone. I just don't feel comfortable with doing that anymore. And someone even younger than that. No, I think this is an adult thing now, and at least at my studio, we're making it 18, no parental consent.
Well, that's a good change, I think. One of my friends, his girlfriend was calling around earlier in the year trying to find a tattoo artist that would tattoo her much younger brother. And I don't know if they ever found one, but it took her a long time to find somebody who would do it. So the good news is most people do stick to their guns instead of the quick dollar to make it. When you're doing tattoo work, it happens a lot in movies where people stumble in drunk and get stupid tattoos, but do you ever get people who you kind of talk out of what they get tattooed, or is whatever they say goes?
No, we'll always try to talk them out of artistic differences. Like if they want something, but maybe it's not artistically correct, we might point that out. But again, tattooing is self-expression. So if you want to express yourself in a certain way that is you, and you're an adult, and obviously we're not going to stand in your way. But a lot of people want very small tattoos. Seem to be very popular now. Again, they've always been, but they keep seeming people want their tattoos smaller and smaller and smaller. and this is kind of known as micro tattooing, and it's just not possible to do. Like the machines, needles, and pigments, a tattooing has to be done at a minimum size, a minimum scale for longevity, for it to last and for it to hold up over the years. I mean, skin is the largest living organ on your body. It's living, it's breathing, it's moving, it's all the time. It's not a canvas in the sense that it's fixed, So, tattooing has to be performed a certain way to ensure that that tattoo will look good as you age, and as you maybe damage your skin through sun.
We have a friend whose tattoo has faded to the point where it was at one point brown, but it is now yellow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit curious, actually, as far as the people that you would employ at your tattoo, I guess even in tattoos venues in general, what kind of qualifications do they seem to have? Like, I know they might have something relating to being a tattoo artist, but at the same time, they might not have any qualifications.
Well, here's the thing again. Our industry, is, in the eyes of the government of Canada, it's practically not even an industry, even though it is and we exist. They don't even classify a tattoo artist as a position. It's like a level 3 or tier 3 position. It's like it's not even really ranked. Because there is no formalized education or training for it. So it's not like you go to community college for 2 years to become a tattoo artist. If you have artistic ability and you try to find a tattoo artist that would apprentice you, and your apprenticeship is your education. So whether that be 1 year, 2 years, you are going to learn everything from ground up. And if you're apprenticed properly, you won't be using people as test models or anything. You'd be practicing on a substance like maybe a pigskin, which you could pick up from a butcher shop, or some people tattoo oranges or grapefruits, and that's, you're never going to have a really good looking image, but it gets you comfortable with the motion, and you're not going to have any permanent damage on a client, so that's the way it's done. And as you get better, then you can bring your friends in and start small tattoos get to be medium-sized tattoos, and so on and so forth. We just finished an apprenticeship with someone because she came to us, and she was very adamant about wanting to be a tattoo artist, and she was persistent, and we liked her, and we took a shot with her, and she's now tattooing independently with supervision still, but she can do small, simple tattoos. Another year from now she'll be doing medium to large. Another year from now she'll be really good. We're really impressed with her. And sometimes it's easier to create your own employees because then hire someone that maybe has worked at another studio, because studios do have very different in-house policies and procedures, and it's a safety benefit that everyone working in one studio be on the same page, so that we all are doing exactly the same thing, not someone's off there doing their thing and this thing, and now none of us know. It could be potentially risky for all that work at that studio.
I guess somewhat related to the last question, are these people coming straight out of high school necessarily, or do you think that they're maybe university or college educated in something entirely different, but they like the art side of the tattoo stuff? Good
question, because there was a time when everyone was in high school. From the minute you turned 16, they wanted to be a piercer, they wanted to be a tattoo artist, and they bugged studios like crazy. Oh, please, please, please. And how can you take on someone who's still in school, right? So how are they going to go to high school and apprentice? So basically, they would patronize the studio and build a rapport with the owner or some of the tattoo artists, and then by the time they graduated, if they were still around and they were still patronizing the studio and they still had a rapport with the artist, and they're like, all right, you know what? You've been a solid customer for years. You didn't ever leave. You always showed us interest. So now that you're out of school, high school, if you want to do an apprenticeship, we'll apprentice you. That seemed to be the way it was. Now it seems that people are going into college and completing art diplomas or art courses. and then maybe realizing that they love art, they're good at art, but now that they've got their diploma, how do you make a living?
Yes.
With an art diploma. If
Yep.
you're not rendering art as an artist with your diploma and selling that art, how do you make a living? So now they see the opportunity to join a fun and exciting industry and meet new people and make good money rendering art. So those people can sometimes be very good because they'll already have a lot of the art stuff down, and they just need to learn how to use the instrumentation or the tools like the machines and how to render the art. Instead of brush or pen, it's now needle and ink or needle and machine.
Does the technology seem to get updated very often as far as
Oh.
tattooing, or has it just been the same for a long time?
It has changed drastically over the years. Tattooing doesn't even resemble what it did, I'd say, as little as 10 years ago. Everything was coil machines. And when I say that, it would be like two coils that would cause what's known as an armature bar to positive and negative to vibrate, which drew the needle up and down, which would ultimately deposit pigment into the epidermis, breaking the epidermis into the dermis. But now machines are a little bit different. Their rotary machines seem to be a lot more popular. They don't hit as hard as a conventional coil machine. They have interchangeable tips, so you don't need multiple machines. Like, it used to be that one machine was a shader, so you only used it for shading. One machine was a liner, you only used it for lining. So you might have 3 machines out, sometimes even 4 machines in the old way. Now you can simply modify by taking off a tip and replacing a tip on a rotary machine, changing its speed setting on your power supply. It's just, it's much more, the technology has changed so much. I mean, old school tattoo guys probably would never get into modern tattooing now. It would probably just be something that would blow them away, or they wouldn't want to, because it would be learning something new. But everybody coming up now, everybody is pretty much going with the new technology. Yeah.
It's interesting. I never really thought about that question until now, but yeah. It seems like it's something that people have been doing for so long. It has such a long history of people getting these tattoos.
In not necessarily wrapping up, but if you, since you told us during the debates you only have 90 seconds, if you were given as much time as you need to address the city of St. Catharines, the people of St. Catharines, the people who you're trying to win over, do you have anything you want to say that doesn't have to be 90 seconds long? You've said a lot.
Yeah.
And we've got a good overall view of who you are.
I think this is one thing I would like to say to the citizens of St. Catharines, or anyone who would be following my campaign, is I've already mentioned in some Facebook videos I've posted that don't look to me to be your standard candidate like that big business or politician type, because I'm not. I'm the person who is talking right now, and if you want to come and meet me, I welcome that. I'm not going to make a bunch of grandiose campaign promises, which seems to be the trend, right? And I really don't want people to buy into those, because I think if we look back even 4 years in our current city, we'll see that a lot of things didn't happen that were said would happen. So it's proof that typically in any kind of campaign, promises are made, and rarely are they ever met. Or some are met, but not all. So don't buy into that. Okay, I'm not going to make those promises. If I could make a couple promises, and they're not even, they would be guarantees that I said I would do. Here's one thing that I firmly believe. I firmly believe that when citizens go to City Hall, and sometimes they have problems with each department, say that be the water department or planning or zoning, and then they get really mad and they start yelling at the employees of City Hall because they're having problems and stuff like that. Well, I mean, I'm sympathetic to that they're angry and they want action or they want answers, but they're taking it out on the employees of the city of St. Catharines, and it's really not their fault. They're doing their job. They know what they have to do their job. I think that sometimes as a mayor, mayors are busy doing the mayoral thing. They're doing their job. And sometimes they lose sight of all the different departments that exist in the city. They might just get updates or something. One thing I would like to do, and I'd like to do it because I'd actually like to know firsthand, if elected, I would literally go to every department for a period of time, like maybe a week, and work side by side with those City of St. Catharines employees to know what they have to deal with, so that maybe I could get an idea. Like if a citizen came in and I was working in the clerk's department and they were very angry and they were yelling at one of the women that worked in the clerk's office, I would want to walk up to them and I'd want to find out what we could do to help them. And maybe I would observe something that I could give some input to, so that those people in that department could better serve the citizens. It's like that's definitely one thing I want to do, and if elected, I will, because it's a group effort. Okay, City Hall, it's not just one person at top and everyone else. I mean, that has to be, that has to tumble down. We all have to know what everyone's role is, so that we can help people do it. The other thing would be is that this position is incredibly important to me, and I always mentioned it, that I don't want people to think that this is just some sort of, it's definitely not a publicity stunt. Honestly, I don't need to be the mayor of St. Catharines. My business, like I said, has been around 17 years, and I'm fine with it. I continue to do my job, and but I feel that this is something I want to do now, and I want to help the City of St. Catharines and its citizens. And this is probably the first job I think I've ever applied for that I don't even have any idea of what I'd be paid. Seriously, there's no listing anywhere that says what a mayor...
I was going to ask that, but...
Yeah, there's nowhere listed. I honestly have no idea what the mayor of St. Catharines gets paid. Now, I've asked that question of a couple people, maybe that are close to City Hall, and they threw out some figures which seemed a little bit extravagant, because honestly I didn't maybe they're not correct or something, but I've heard like a ranging anywhere between like say $80,000 to maybe $120,000 a year or something like that. I mean, that kind of money is just like so beyond my expectations or means. So the one thing I would definitely say, and this is not knowing what I'd be paid, I seriously look at the issues affecting this city right now, and they are ones that are in serious need of money. Now, if we haven't done anything about them in the last 4 years, and we haven't had the tax dollars to put forward to that, then I would tell the citizens of St. Catharines this: if elected, I will literally donate back 50% of whatever the mayor's salary is to any issue, cause that is affecting the city. So let's go back to homelessness. If we have all these homeless people and we don't have the money for it, whatever it is, so let's just say, we'll throw out a fictitious number there. Mayor gets paid $100,000 a year. I will literally give $50,000 of that back to a cause, donated in my name, obviously, Johnny Tischler, not the mayor of St. Catharines. If I were to be paid it would come to me, and I would put it aside, and I'll do all that. I'll prove that. I'll show people what my paycheck is, what my, biweekly maybe salary is, and I will take that money aside and either accumulate it for the first year and donate it in one big chunk, or just give it on a bi-weekly basis to where it's needed, and I will do that for every 4 years of my term. And after that, if I've proven to the City of St. Catharines and its citizens that I've been a good mayor, well then I'll run again. And if I'm reelected, maybe I'll donate some more too, maybe not as much, but I'm willing to do that for the people of this city. And that's not a campaign promise. If I'm going to make that, I'm going to attest to that. I think that I can be held accountable legally for not following through, so I'm going to do it.
When you say doing that, as you were speaking, and kind of one of the overarching themes of this conversation, if we stick with $100,000 a year and say that $50,000 gets donated, do you think that maybe it would be better spent, instead of donating it to a cause, starting your own cause? Because $50,000 a year, 4 years, that's $200,000. I don't know legally how a mayor can fundraise a charitable cause, but you could do like the Johnny Tischler
Foundation.
like fighting homelessness cause, and instead of donating it to any type of charity that may be making small incremental changes, but maybe with that power.
Just before you answer,
not with the power.
there's sort
but
of
with,
two sides to that. I mean, you get more oversight if it was his own operation, but at the same time, it might seem a little strange.
True.
I mean, it's his money going towards his own thing at that point. It's not really independent. But I don't know.
No, I like the idea of that, and that's something I did actually think about too. So you could, you're right, you could call it, it could be a trust, or it could be a foundation, and you could get a numbered company and basically make the numbered company that take all the money, put it away, maybe deposit it throughout the period of a year into a high interest account, so that obviously it's going to do the best for you. You could decide to give it weekly, or you could decide to collect it all for 1 year, and then it might be serve whichever charity or cause you decided to donate it better in a much larger lump sum. These are things that obviously that that I'd be willing to do. Maybe if elected, I would call upon like a few counselors to sit on this, like my fund or my charity or my trust, and to assist me in like, they would have to donate their time, because we're not doing this to make money. We're already being compensated by our positions through the city of St. Catharines. But if they thought that it was a good idea and agreed with it, then I would more than happily have some of the ward councilors sit on maybe a 5-person board. Me being the head, and then 2 others, and we could vote on the use. People that are charities or need this money can then approach us and say, listen, you know what, we think that's great. We could really use some of this funding, and then we could discuss it as a little mini board and decide where it would be best spent. And again, I have no issues with doing that at all. Yeah.
well, that's good, and it's not. I would think the $120,000 a year isn't out of the realm of possibility, from what I know, just based on what I know from, like, even my small town mayor. I kind of have a rough idea what he made, and it's a town that pales in comparison to St. Catharines. So I think your 50% contribution would be a very, very big deal. I know you're not doing it for the publicity, but it is definitely a
Publicly notable thing to do.
It would definitely be a publicly notable thing to do that a lot of people talk. I mean, again, another theme of this conversation, and a lot of people do talk the talk, but when it comes down to it, not a lot of people walk and do what they said they were going to do. So,
well, that's it. And the thing is I definitely am not going for this position for just the the financial aspect or benefit to it at all, because and me doing this is one way that I can show people that is not the case. I mean, my business will still run while I'm the mayor. I'll still earn money that way too. So yeah, it could potentially be a $200,000 donation over a 4-year period.
that's huge.
And it doesn't mean I'm going to starve. I mean, I started things off really young. Like, most people weren't thinking, like, in their when they were just about to turn 20 or 21, about buying a house and stuff. Like I said, I'm 48, so I was raised by a single mother, so I know the value of who raised 3 kids on her own, me being one of them. And she taught us all to be hard workers, and how to stretch a dollar and how to get ahead. And I own some rental properties that I've acquired over the years, and my own house outright. So I started at an early age to secure my future, just based on hard work. And I think, that's what's enabled me to to survive. You mentioned too, there was sometimes you'll have a lean year, or you'll get things will look you'll get a little scared or something like that, and everyone's had those years, and but coming from my upbringing, I think is what's enabled me to maneuver them and survive them.
And I guess the other thing, since now that we've been talking, I can't remember the specific dates, but voting for any type of elected official, there's always that controversy that people don't show up. So what are the dates that people need to know?
Well, I can tell you these dates. Okay, so obviously October 22nd is election night.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously every ward will have anywhere from 3 to 4 polling stations. I've already listed them on my Facebook page, my candidate page, Johnny Tischler for Mayor of St. Catharines. So you can see them there. But this is the really bonus thing that I like. So everyone always worries about, I'll forget, or maybe I'll be busy that night and I won't do it. So I'm saying all the people that are supporting me right now, and I know you people, you told me you'd give me your vote. You said, you've got my vote, you've got my vote. So this is what I'm telling you. October 1st to October 19th, you can early vote at City Hall from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. Nothing can stop you from voting for 19 days prior, to the 22nd. Okay, so you got to go down to City Hall and do it, but all you got to do is bring a single piece of ID that identifies you as who you are. Now, there are other advanced polling things per ward too. I haven't listed them yet because I truly think that most people would just take advantage of the 1st to the 19th at City Hall. I mean, over a 19-day period, I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to find 15 minutes of time to make it down to City Hall and pop out your wallet. There's my driver's license. I'd like to vote. And then boom, vote right there. So advanced polling is really important. Starting October 1st, I've already listed something about it, that it's coming, but I will repost daily for starting October 1st on my Facebook thing, and I will be like, okay, day 1, let's go, and and then continue to obviously do everything else up until the 22nd, but just to encourage people to get out there and do it early. Yeah.
And I will be one of them. I like the early aspect, so that way, if you do happen to get busy on the day, having the early voting is always nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my where I'll be voting this year, the closest to me is the same place I've voted every year. It's Burley Hill Elementary School. Okay. So I'll be going there. I'm actually going to save my vote, for the people I want to vote for and for myself. For the actual night, I want to make an appearance at the not there's no publicity or anything for it, but that's where I voted, and every other year that I've lived in the same neighborhood for the entire in the ward of Meriden for all 30 years that I've lived in St. Catharines. So that's where I'll be voting.
And we do wish you luck, obviously.
Yes.
If for some reason it doesn't, you don't end up winning, is this the end, or will you try again? Do you have any thought process? Are you going to remain outspoken? I don't know if people think like that. I don't know if you think about the future if you don't win.
Well, here's something that I've noticed in the past. When other people in the 2014 election ran and they didn't succeed, boom, they just disappeared. So that makes me wonder that you thought that you could make a change, but just because you lost, you don't feel that you can still make a change? Absolutely you can. Why aren't you running again now? Okay. Everyone told me I was shooting too high. They told me I should have went for to be a ward counselor first or something. But I'm sorry, I really, I've been an owner, a president, a CEO of my own corporation, and basically, the city of St. Catharines is a corporation. I'm not saying I want to run it like that, but I'm just saying I feel that the position of mayor is not beneath me or is not attainable. So yeah, and I always shoot for the highest thing I can go for. I'm not afraid of that. So yeah, I think let's wait and see what the numbers come out. But let's just say we fictitiously talked about him. Let's just say that our current mayor won, okay, and I took second place. Like in 2014, Walter Sesnick won by about 3% against Jeff Birch, okay. Jeff Birch ended up running for an MP spot, which he got. So congratulations, Jeff. You know, I've already congratulated him and everything. But he took his desire and went elsewhere and still pursued it. Okay. So if I was like came in second place, you know, and I lost, then I would return in 2022 and try one more time, you know, and hope that enough people would have remembered me over the 4 years. And then in the 4 years to come, still remain active in St. Catharines, possibly, you know, doing anything I could just to, you know, still let people know that that my city is important to me, you know. But yeah, I would run again one more time, you know.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
See, we knew we'd fill it when you said, you know, you talk for an hour, really, and we're at an hour 20.
Not
so
hard to do. No.
Oh, geez, you know.
we cover everything, and
I think we ended on a pretty good note too.
yeah, because that's exactly where I wanted to. Not the if you don't win stuff, but knowing that you'll always be around, I think is a good thing. I think there's a lot of people, the voting for a person that is for the people seems to be an in thing nowadays, but very rarely are the people that are running for the people actually for the people.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was very long sentence,
and I really hope that you know, when you guys put this together and I can direct people to it, you know, I'll encourage them to watch the whole thing. You know, like
Don't give in to your shortened attention span. By
no,
everywhere else.
There was a lot of good information. I always love the business aspect.
Yeah.
So listening.
Puts a personal touch on it too.
Yeah.
And it was an excellent format, guys. I'm telling you, I didn't know what to expect. I'm not, you know, I don't shy away from things like this, but they are somewhat new to me. You know, I'm not, I don't make speeches regularly. I don't take interviews a lot. I don't have issues with them, and
we're honored.
And I feel comfortable doing them. But yeah, it's not my wheelhouse. You know, like I'm more of a one-on-one person throughout business. I deal directly with individual people, but I can go both ways, and I really appreciate you doing this with me and letting me speak my mind and tell the citizens of St. Catharines a little more about what I'm about.
Well, you're very welcome, and
yeah, we're honored to have had you.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll get to interview the mayor of St. Catharines.
Let's hope. Yeah.
Alrighty, have a good night, everybody.
Signing off.